Howdy, brothers. Life's good. Making great food, having a good day. Helping fix up a bus a little bit.
Okay.
How'd the eggplant turn out, Damien?
Excellent. I actually
Great.
ended up fermenting the eggplant a little bit. So I got some really unique flavor profiles there and used maple syrup to help stick the breadcrumbs on into the egg.
Nice,
Okay.
nice.
Yeah, it was good.
Great. Sounds very scrumptious.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Making me hungry again.
Funny.
I had a light one. Had the salad and these instead of going two veggie chicken patties, I just kind of used 3 pieces of bread and stuff 2 in there. That way, I'll have like one less trip to the grocery store again, and I'll be able to get 2 more patties.
Strategic.
2 more patties in there. Yep. Basically.
He's a planner. You got to keep your eye on Flav.
Yeah, you got to plan. So yeah, my day was like, I knew it was coming, but like work kind of snuck up on me. They kind of realized I probably should have had an assignment yesterday, so they found me today, and I ended up doing some phone calls for a progressive candidate running for state attorney in Florida, anti-cash bail, anti-mass incarceration candidate.
Interesting.
Yep. Treating kids like kids instead of adults in the carceral system. So hopefully she wins.
But then she was against the cash bailout. I'm sorry if I'm.
She's against cash bail. Yeah, the system that kind of allows people to rot in a holding center because they don't have a few $100.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay.
So yeah, the cash bail system is one of those.
That's a cool
systems.
reform.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's kind of it's what we're kind of pushing across the country is these kind of candidates. It's like interesting. Some of these candidates are running. She's state attorney, but some of the candidates run for DA, and they're like, my job is basically. It's almost to like put myself out of a job, right? Like it's to stop the pipeline of like, all these kids and all these people coming into the courtroom. Like my job is to like push them right back out and just not to let these people keep coming into the system if they don't have to. Not to prosecute, in other words, if we don't have to.
Yeah, no, I definitely I can appreciate a lot of these reform ideas. I know prison reform is a really big topic, and that's a big issue that people don't typically get to talk about, especially people who may have been so fortunate to not have been to jail or to not have been through a system where they get to see that from the inside out. Looking from the outside in, it's hard to tell, but it definitely needs some degree of reform. If not a complete reform would be better. This
whole abolition movement is a pretty revolutionary style of changing the system. It scares people because it's like, abolitionists believe in like getting rid of the prison system, and also, defunding the police is like changing the whole police system or getting rid of it. People are like, what's going to happen? It's going to be pandemonium. But people are like, well, what happens when you call the police? You call them after some shit already went down, right? And they show up afterwards, and it's like, are you going to get your shit back that was stolen? No, probably not. You're going to fill out some kind of form. Like it's usually after some shit's already gone down that you call them. So unless you're calling them in the midst of something, pretty substantial that's going on, and they're literally breaking it up, which usually isn't what it is. It may not be the answer that people seek.
To speak on that personal account, I was fortunate enough to get a stolen item back, a bass guitar that was stolen from my premises, and actually the officer helped mitigate this very well. You know, at first it was really more fortunate that the person tried to sell the stolen item,
Okay.
and that's how the number showed up when we were able to get it. But the business that was sold to did not want to give it up. They were trying to tell me that we had to buy it back from them.
Oh, wow.
The
Okay.
officer actually settled the discrepancy and was able to secure it, but he had to bring it back confiscated as evidence from
Okay.
the place of sale.
That's
And
the
then
only way.
we were able to claim it, as our own with the receipt and everything that we had already paid previously for this instrument. So it was really an interesting situation. And, a social worker could have helped with this. It didn't necessarily have to be a police officer per se, but I did have a positive experience in that. And I appreciated the human interaction, because something that concerns me in automation would be those night scope robots. I don't know if you've seen those things at all.
No,
Well,
not
yeah,
yet.
I don't know how close we are to that kind of automation, but I guess in your point is like the authority of the police officer at least like made the business, give up your guitar, right? A
Yeah,
social worker probably would have found it hard to like have some kind of authority to pull your guitar out of there.
right.
I wonder,
Like,
was the business compensated? Was the person who
I was curious about that too.
was the person who sold the good the actual person who stole it from you?
it's actually pending in court still right now.
Oh, okay.
Super
'Cause I was
current.
gonna
event.
say, if that was the person who actually did the crime, then they could probably.
Well, they should have to give the money back that they took from the place of sale, because it was trespassing, stolen item, and then theft of sale of stolen item. So it was 3 charges that stacked. I'll keep you updated. It is interesting to see. The legal system certainly does have a lot of issues and a lot of trouble discerning some delicate, sensitive information that happens between people. Typically, like he said, who said, what said this. I fortunately have cameras, and I've had voice recordings, messages. I've had the documentation. Without
Did
the
you also have the documentation, like some kind of serial number on this bass guitar or something?
Correct. With the bass guitar specifically, having the serial number or identification number of the instrument is what allowed them to find it in their computers searching for instruments up for sale, and where it was, and they were able to locate it based on that number. So again, without the proper information, I would have been at a loss, and officers wouldn't have been able to help.
Yeah, very rare, ideal situation.
Yeah, super rare. I just was speaking from personal experience, and that is they even said, they were like, it's exceptional that you have all the information together. Most people don't. I mean, that was noted even in the court case and some other things I'm dealing with. They say, like, it's amazing that you have all of these records and accounts. And some people will refer to me as being a little crazy for keeping track of things and keeping messages and even recording conversations sometimes. But that has saved me a ton of trouble. And without it, narcissistic sociopaths would have twisted these things around into a whole nother side story.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is good to have some civil service. But I do agree with reformation. It's wrapping my head around defunding efforts. That's been a little tough for me to understand as a centrist trying to maintain a central point of view. But I do understand that we need to redo these things. Even some friends I've spoken to in the police department, they agree we need to reform these things. The way that they do the academy, the way they do these things, it's not working. But
one of the things I heavily pushed is that we should reduce the military aspect of the police department now, because I think it's actually unconstitutional. That's my approach to it. But in the money we save, we should send the police officers into a longer period of school. I'll give you a good example. And I hate to use Europe, because Europe there are different circumstances, but the largest and most important economy in Europe is arguably Germany's, and its officers there's only been 4 people killed since 1998, I believe. on-duty officers have had to exert that much force to actually hurt somebody. But the thing is that they go through. Our officers go through a period of like 9 weeks. Their officers go through a period of 2 years.
Wow.
So I mean, right then and there, you can say that they started off the bat with much better trained officers for all sorts of situations. So they can actually handle the mentally unstable public that they're dealing with because they're trained for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, there's a few things there. I mean, when you look at a bunch of other occupations besides police officers in the U.S., they train a lot longer than our police officers do. When you look at them side to side, you'd be like surprised, like,
Yeah.
the kind of, I mean, you're practically looking at people who like do hair and nails, like getting trained longer than police officers. But yeah, I mean, as far as training our officers in a way that they're equipped to deal with the public, but also not dumping so much on them in the first place. So like Damien,
Yeah,
when you talk
absolutely.
about defunding, it's not just like stripping a bunch of money away and kicking the cops out. It's like, we're going to shift this funding to people, whether they be social workers or like mental health
Right.
workers or people who are actually equipped, designed, and specialized in dealing in these types of situations.
Yeah,
Instead
I'll
of
zap on that because then defunding, you might want to say like refunding. We're going to refund the social programs that have been lacking the necessary funds. And where are we going to get it from? The police or the military budget. And we're going to take from those massive budget blocks and put them into things that have been deprived of necessary funding, like what you're saying. I like that a lot. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been a big question, is the verbiage and the way that it's been, just the way that it's been rolled out. People kind of get scared when they hear these terms like defund the police. I kind of look at it like there must be a reason that it was stated that way, that there's probably more to it, and maybe they're getting to the meat of their message, like it's an abolitionist message, so maybe it's not supposed to be, so easily digestible or cute so that everyone gets it. But I totally understand that if we want people to buy into it, that we want to roll it out in a way that's like easy to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely believe that. In the end of the day, we're getting the same thing, but you need people to understand that they're not going to be stripped of all their police officers or all the police officers' duties.
Right.
Just a portion of them that don't make any sense for the police officers to be handling in the first place.
Yeah, especially the presence in schools, which has been very problematic.
Yeah.
So,
Now that's to me that's actually the worst sticking point to me, because unfortunately our kids are ground zero for any nutcase with a gun. So I do believe in armed security in schools, but maybe not police officers per se, to turn them into like revolving jail centers where they're already seeing police officers and heavily armed people in their schools to monitor them. I think that's the wrong idea for me. I definitely view it as, basically, unless you're a parent, you should not be on school grounds. That's first off. You're a parent or a guardian of a child, you should not be on school grounds unless you're employed by the school system, and that has to be first and foremost, because that way that cuts down on a lot of people, and then you have police that can move in if there's a need for them into the school to take care of these trespassing people.
well, I think most of the school shootings have been from students.
So a good number, yeah, but
Yeah.
but there has been people that just look at it like a soft target, and I have a feeling that we're not out of the woods yet with school shootings, just because the coronavirus has put a kind of a damper on the activities of these psychopaths, I don't think that we've seen the end of the school shootings quite yet.
Well,
Well,
if you notice, every time there's an NRA issue on the table, there's a school shooting.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for the NRA to be busted
The government
down.
hasn't been functional, so that's why we're out declaring right now.
yep.
Yeah.
Pattern
As soon
recognition.
as we get back
That's
functional, it'll be back.
But you know, getting back to the schools. I mean, yeah, the system with the situation with the school shootings is. I mean, I like that you said, you know, maybe some other type of armed security, right? Like folks that maybe are only there to like
Mm.
interact in a school shooting situation, but
Yeah,
never
yeah.
any other time, because you know some of these teachers are like calling the cops on little Jamal because Jamal has an attitude, and next thing you know, there's a horrible interaction, and he's in a headlock, like writhing on the ground with some grown ass man who's like, you know,
Yeah.
just like messing with the kids, and yeah, they just should not be. They should not be doing that to the kids.
Well,
They
maybe
No,
shouldn't.
absolutely.
brings to point some more jobs in the social working department, and maybe social workers that specialize in situations like that, where we know we need you at these schools, but we need to train you as a de-escalator or a negotiator. You know, like the guys who with police force are trained to talk a guy off a cliff. You know,
Yeah.
we're gonna get you off the cliff, buddy. It's gonna be all right. We're gonna give you, you know, candy, sugar plum fairies, whatever you need. We're getting you off this cliff, and we're going to make your life better, and we're going to make the world a better place. Someone who can not only say those things, but as a social worker, actually bring them through programs that will help them get to where they need to be. Now, when you're
Yeah.
dealing with a high stress shooter, of course, yes, this is a much, much more escalated situation. But you know, the attempt would be to create a program, and I think social workers might be able to have that, though again it would be a much higher risk, and we are talking about putting Kevlar on a social worker and you know, arming them with some non-lethal takedown.
Wait, no. Let
training.
me back that up for a second, because you were going to a good place, and then it just
Yeah,
went to
oh,
a weird place.
yeah,
Um, I think some kind of de-escalators in schools, I think, is a great idea.
Hmm.
I actually took like a peer mediation class in high school, which is basically about like de-escalation and just like, you know, calming situations down. I think whether it's maybe like older peers, like maybe older, like I don't know, maybe people who have like just graduated or like
Oh, alumni.
whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, whether it's alumni or whether it's trained social workers, I think that's a good idea. People who can help like quell and calm the situation. But they don't need Kevlar. Like we're not. I don't think we're not mixing these folks up with people who
Yeah.
are going to stop a shooter situation. Like
Okay.
let's be real. Like the shooter situation is scary, and as often as it's happening in general, it's not going to happen as much as kids acting up in school every day, right?
Yes.
Kids acting up in school every day is a normal everyday occurrence that needs to be handled, you know, by someone who can handle themselves and isn't afraid of the children. But a school shooting, I mean, the possibility of that happening is much lower. So I think,
Right.
you know, those things
More
need
of
to
an
be.
anomaly is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
not like an everyday occurrence, more of an anomaly.
Yeah, exactly. Those things need to be separated somewhat.
That's a good point. No, it's true. When the image and the idea comes to mind, I think like I want to prepare this person for every possibility and maybe even create a deterrent. But then again, violence begets more violence. When you have someone with Kevlar who's armed and trained, you're almost kind of asking for them to be tested in that way. So I see what you're saying by like, you know, if you overdo it, then you're kind of really provoking the situation, maybe is what we're getting at.
Yeah,
Sure.
or just
It's when.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say when you have a hammer and you're trained to hammer things in, everything looks like a nail. So
Bang bang Maxwell silver hammer.
Yeah,
Yeah, basically.
yeah, and yeah, not that they're going to provoke someone to try to shoot them or something because they're wearing Kevlar, but it's kind of like, what kind of message does that send? It still puts people in like this militarized zone, right, where even the social workers have to wear Kevlar. You know, it's just kind of a rough situation. But you know, like when we talk about defunding the police, there are those like abolitionists who eventually do want to reimagine the entire system of policing. And like imagine like OGs, helping to quote unquote police or helping to protect their neighborhood, or even helping some of the really troubled kids, like people who understand where they're coming from, you know, people who are really like mentors and guides that these kids could really identify with.
Yeah, I like that. That's like the alumni thing is amazing. That's communal equity right there with family values, all packaged in one little give back program. Like, hey, like jury duty, but no, like social civil service duty. And we need you to just come into school, make sure kids are doing all right, and be a mediator and take a course on de-escalation. I like
Yeah.
that.
You know, some of these OGs have actually helped neighborhoods with like, high amounts of shooting, and they've been able to bring them down because there's like a system of like politics in the neighborhoods and a system of conflict resolution where you're actually able.
Peacekeepers.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. OGs who have been through it
They're
all.
very
I
helpful.
know. Yeah, exactly. And that's real, not some occupying force of trigger happy people that are afraid of what they see in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, because they don't know anyone in the neighborhood. They don't live anywhere near it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I would like to get our police officers that remain. I would like them to do community policing. Live in your neighborhood, be part of your neighborhood, not rely on force or numbers to get your point across, but to actually use the neighborhood itself as a resource for your policing, for the reason to get kids to stop the criminal activities and look for a future. But it also has to be, guys, we have to also mention that part of the defunding has to go right back into education to give these kids the opportunity, and that ends the cycle of violence and poverty.
Oh, that's one of the main things. Education and job creation, right?
Absolutely.
When we look at it's, there's a direct, if not causation between jobs, education, and safety in the neighborhoods. So yeah,
Those are
safe.
Sorry, those are things that really need to be funded at the national level. Like that. That's the thing. I think we need to just. I mean, obviously at the local level, we should defund the cops. I completely agree. But when it comes to funding, we really should fund all school districts equally, like regardless of property tax values. And we should also, we should also have a Green New Deal. We absolutely need a Green New Deal to solve climate change with a jobs guarantee, and that would solve so many problems in this country. That's really yet another reason, and everything comes back to this for me, another reason I'm bitter that Bernie didn't win.
Yeah, well, you can't be bitter unless you're going to build a time machine, and then they say if you build a time machine now, it's still too late because there wasn't a time machine to go back to, when Bernie would have won. So, like, we can't be bitter. We have a lot of energy, we have a lot of smarts, and we got to build for the future.
It's true.
It's just not going to do. It's not going to do anything.
You got to take the lessons from Bernie and apply them to the future candidates. It's basically my takeaway from that.
What lessons would you say need to be taken from his two defeats?
I think that one, we can't allow our parties to determine winners. You got to allow the people to determine winners, and that's primary, so that way the elections are fair and the competition is fair. Second, I also like his messaging that I am not the candidate that you're looking for. You are the candidate you're looking for, and we're just going to do this together. I've always respected that about Bernie. That he's never said I am the way, the light, and everything. He's never said that. He said you're the way. You are the every single one of you that empowered me should be looking to yourselves.
There's also another possibility that maybe all along Bernie knew that he wasn't going to win, and
That's
that it wasn't about winning, that it was about pushing the country forward so that someone else in the future could win, whether it's an AOC or whether it's someone else that was in a better position to win once the country had seen the error of its ways and kind of breaking through the centrism. Because this DNC machine that we have that has been screwing people over since since the 50s or 60s or even before then is really hard to break through. And I think we kind of have to see some missed opportunities and really want it. And maybe even this shit show of a year, 2020, maybe something like this had to happen to rile us up. And now people are thinking why are we paying rents like this? And why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Maybe we had to really, get to this revolutionary mind state.
Yeah, we had to get broken out of the norm.
Yeah.
Definitely. And one thing I will say is that I think in 2016, it's true that he didn't expect to win and he was just running as an issue candidate. In 2020, though, I think he definitely thought he could win. I mean, he was basically the front runner up until the Nevada caucus. I mean, he won the first 3 primaries in a row. It's unprecedented for a candidate who's leading that much at that point to lose. It really, I mean, his campaign made a lot of errors, but there would have been more room for error if he didn't have the entire media against him, if he didn't have to answer for the behavior of his worst supporters, which was no worse than any other supporters. I mean, Kamala Harris was just picked as VP. The K-Hive on Twitter was far worse than any of Bernie's supporters. And also the fact that the establishment, of course, just united around Biden. But he there's no question he, I think, believed he could win this time.
Well, that's the playbook, right? If we don't know how to fight back against the playbook, then this is what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't expecting this level of, of a concerted effort, the way they all kind of came together like Voltron behind Biden to fight back. That was when one by one they all started dropping like flies and they all started throwing their support to Biden. That was kind of out there. And then
to step in on this two-party system conflict we're kind of talking about a little bit here. Bernie lost the war over the campaign trail, so to speak, but he won the battle, proving that he could do grassroots fundraising person to person, and he could crowdfund a campaign, and that's what he won. And they said that was spoken about, that this example he set proves that any one of us, as the candidates that we want to be, can step up and crowdfund a campaign. We just have to go against this monolithic two-party system conflict that we are so socially engineered to want to participate in. There's no better word for it. We're comfortable with it. It's become a cage almost in that case. But I think we can do this.
Damien, I will say that my reasoning that there is two parties is because the Constitution is so yay or nay on the issues resolved in the Congress and in the Senate. There only is yay or nay solutions. There's no third party coalition building like there is in parliamentary systems. So I have all long believed that it's in our Constitution to have two strong parties at any single time.
Winner takes all. Winner takes all. We have. Yeah, that's definitely hurting us. Go ahead.
I'm not saying it's a good
Yeah.
thing. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
this is what I think is the main culprit. It's not even. I've heard all sorts of conspiracies that they get together to get to squash candidates, and yes, that happens a little bit, but not as much as people would expect. It's really our law system that is hampering us at this point. Our legally binding constitution and how we resolve issues.
And Damien, to your point, I completely agree that Bernie and AOC and other grassroots candidates have created this new model that allows us to have an end run around corporate money. I don't necessarily think the party we choose to run is as important as the agenda candidates are running on. And at this moment, I would love structural electoral reforms, but when I see left-wing activists like calling to abandon the Democrats completely or calling for a third party, I think that at this moment, that's a losing strategy and would sort of be a step backwards, because we've actually had like a pretty decent amount of success just running and knocking off corporate Democrats in primaries. And I mean, DSA got a whole bunch of candidates elected to the New York State legislature, and they actually helped to get like a comprehensive tenant protection act passed. And I think that there's circumstances in which I would support a third party candidate, but it would be ones in which they like legitimately had a shot at winning. Like if we say we're in a district in which it was a one party district and there was a Democrat and no Republican to speak of, and say the Green Party candidate there became the main opposition candidate. But oftentimes I don't like from what I've seen, and I could totally be wrong, a lot of third party activists I don't think have a very have a very sound strategy when it comes to attaining power, and I think are self-marginalizing a lot of the time.
No, I agree with that 100%. Problem with third party is that they're looking at the biggest picture they possibly can instead of looking at the very small picture. You and me, Joey, talked about this the other day, how neocons started at the very grassroots level and they started at school boards. So, and then they never numbered numbers. But the problem is that they were so influential at a certain point, the Republicans had to take them in because there was nothing else for them to do unless they wanted to lose more power.
I mean, to zap in on that, I still want to ride on this two-party system, winner takes all, being systematic indoctrination. And I'm asking us to break the chain, be the change, become the candidates that we want to choose to be in office, live every moment infinitely, every purchase infinitely, every dollar we have is a vote in the market that means more than some of the votes we put in the ballot box. And my question that I'll popcorn off on this is, do I need to be a legislator to exercise communal equity with family values? Do I need to be a legislator to do that?
Definitely not. I mean, you could be the captain of your block, and you can take a grassroots style approach and look at look at the numbers needed to win in your district, and you can see how maybe a city hall person is vulnerable according to where their strengths and weaknesses are, and get people like yourself to vote in a voting block. There's a name for it, but Working Families has done this kind of power building, power mapping, I guess is what they call it, is one of the things they call it. But you don't necessarily have to be a legislator to exercise power if you can have meetings with your neighbors and be aligned.
Yeah, definitely. That's the key goal before we run out of time, to do something like that, and to gather people together to exercise their power collectively.
Yeah, I want to say that WF